Cloudflare is one of those tools that sounds technical, but is actually really approachable, and it does a surprising number of things for free. It speeds up your site, blocks bots and bad traffic, it can help you manage AI bots, and it can even give you a custom email address. And you don't need to be a developer to set it up. This video is for anyone with a website who wants to use Cloudflare the right way, even if you've never touched DNS before. To get started with Cloudflare, head to cloudflare.com and click Start Building for free. Enter your email address and a password, and check the little box, verify you're a human, and click sign up. Oh, I try to be lazy with that password. Oh, we can just edit. In the dashboard, go to where it says add a domain, and for typing your domain, enter the URL of your website. I'll click connect. Let's leave everything on auto for now and click continue. Next, you'll be asked to select a plan. Plans are billed per website, and honestly, the free plan is what the majority of people need, so I'll just click select plan. Now, Cloudflare is going to import your DNS records, and if you have an existing website, it's automatically going to pull those records in. However, if you have a brand new website and you've never set this domain up before, it's probably going to be blank, but we have some records. That's because we have a website running on Hostinger. So before continuing, I always recommend double checking with your web host and making sure that all of the records match. Now, to do this, you'll go over to your hosting dashboard. It's going to be slightly different based on who you use, but since I use Hostinger, here's the Hostinger dashboard. I will go and click dashboard next to my domain. And in the left sidebar, I'll go to advanced and DNS zone editor. And then we'll scroll down and see what we have going on here. Now, this happens to be maybe not the best example because there's no A records here. And if I go back to the dashboard, we can see there's these A records. Typically, you will have A records with an IP address showing for your main domain, and then you may also have a C name for www. That is typically what you're looking for. MX records are mail records, so that's a custom email address if you have one set up, and then TXT records are often used for mail or other verification purposes. So everything does look correct to me, but I do just want to point out that it doesn't match exactly. It seems like they're just not giving the A records for some reason, but if you're unsure of your setup and if it's looking right, I recommend reaching out to your web host support and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. Once you're satisfied that everything was imported successfully, click Continue to Activation. Now you need to change the name servers of your domain, and once again, this will vary based on where you've purchased the domain. My domain is held at Pork Bun, so let's go ahead and make that change there. I'll just copy our top DNS record here and go over to Pork Bun, and let me click Details next to our domain and click the Edit button next to Name Servers, and we'll paste Name Server 1 and then go back, copy our second name server and paste that and click Save Name Servers. I will go back to Cloudflare and click I updated my name servers. Now, one important call out, do not blindly copy the name servers because Cloudflare actually assigns a unique pair of name servers for each account. The cool thing is it's gonna be the same 2 name servers for every domain you add to your account from here on out. So you could memorize them and you could just start using them with all your domains without having to copy it if you just remember what they are. But the 2 names that you saw on my screen are likely going to be 2 different names for your account. So now is the hurry up and wait stage because DNS propagation may take up to 24 hours, but honestly, it usually takes about 15 minutes. At any time, you can come into the dashboard and click Check Name Servers Now for a status update, and Cloudflare will also email you when it's live, when the name server change has taken effect, and when DNS is officially running through the Cloudflare network. And again, in my experience, that typically takes about 15 minutes. One more thing to note, if we go over to DNS in the left sidebar and click Records, You may see that your host added a CNAME record for the root domain instead of an A record, and that's a very common setup, so your mileage may vary based on the web host you use, but don't be alarmed if instead of seeing two IP addresses, you actually see a CNAME record or two pointing to a web address under the main domain name. This is perfectly normal and a common setup for web hosts. And also, if DNS is a little confusing, it's kind of like a phone book for your domain name. So as traffic comes in, it points to Cloudflare's servers, and if it's mail traffic, it goes to these servers. If it's web traffic, it goes to these servers based on these IP addresses. So DNS really is a lot less scary than it looks. You just have to be roughly familiar with A records, CNAMEs, MX records, and TXT records. Those are the four you're going to interact with most commonly. Now, just to recap, to get back to the DNS screen at any time from the dashboard, you can click on your domain, and you can click DNS in the left sidebar and click Records. And here you can make any changes to your records as needed. You can edit records, you can add records, you can remove records. Now, one important call out is understanding the Cloudflare proxy. So whenever you see the orange cloud icon next to a record, it means it is running through the Cloudflare proxy, also known as it has the speed benefits and security protections of the Cloudflare network. If you disable this, which you can do by editing the record and flipping the switch off and saving, it'll say DNS only and the cloud will be gray. That acts as a pass-through, so any traffic that hits those records will not first run through Cloudflare's network. It will simply point it directly to your web server. But personally, I recommend leaving the proxy on unless there's an explicit reason you need it off, because that's what brings the speed benefits, the bot protection, the redirects, the custom email, basically like all of the benefits of Cloudflare, or most, require the proxy to be enabled. By the way, if you're finding this video helpful, now would be a great time to hit that subscribe button and click the bell. It's free and you'll be notified when I release new videos. Next, I want to touch on SSL settings. So let's head over to the SSL/TLS option in the left sidebar and click Overview. I'm going to go ahead and click Configure. Now, in the past, it was important to review this and make sure you had the right settings selected, typically full or flexible. But now Cloudflare is good at automatically detecting the right setting for your server and domain. So honestly, you can select the automatic option if you would like, and click Save, and then you never have to worry about managing whether it's set to full or flexible or thinking about what your server needs. Now, just to give a brief overview of the difference, full is going to encrypt the traffic between your browser and Cloudflare, and then between Cloudflare and your web server, where flexible will encrypt traffic between your browser and Cloudflare, but it is decrypted from Cloudflare to your origin server or your web server. Now the difference is, if you're going to use full, you need an SSL certificate installed on your web server. But honestly, the overwhelming majority of web hosts install a free SSL certificate these days, and you don't even have to think about it. However, if that is an issue and you need an SSL certificate, don't buy one. You can go over to the sidebar and click Origin Server, and for Origin certificates, you can click Create Certificate. And stepping through this process will let you generate a free SSL certificate that you can install on your web server, so you'll need to handle that at your web host, and then you can use full encryption and traffic is fully encrypted from the browser all the way to your web server. And this is especially critical if you have something like an e-commerce store or anything with user logins where personal information is going back and forth between the browser and the server, so definitely be cognizant of that. Another major consideration is how to handle AI bots. They're scraping websites constantly, using that data to train models or to power real-time AI search. To adjust whether bots can access your site, go to Security, Settings, and Bot Traffic. And here you can configure policies for AI bots. So you can choose between Search, Agent, and Training. So by default, Search and Agent are recommended to allow, to not block, but maybe for training, you don't want that to be allowed, so you could block on pages with ads, or you could block entirely. Now, something important is that this option will block all training crawlers even those who use the same bot for search. So just keep in mind that if you block bots for training, this could also stop Google from crawling your site and indexing you in Google search. So it is a double-edged sword, but it's neat that the option is there. If we remove the bot traffic filter, there's also an interesting new feature called AI Labyrinth that's in beta, and this modifies your pages by adding nofollow links that contain AI-generated content to disrupt bots ignoring crawling standards. This is some wild stuff. Somehow Cloudflare is able to detect when bots aren't respecting your no crawl rule that you set up and saying, haha, gotcha, we still know you're an AI bot, so we're just gonna show gargly gook on the page that's useless to you. Checkmate. Is gargly gook a word? I think I meant to say gobbledygook. Cloudflare also gives you tools to fully manage AI crawlers. In the AI crawl control tab on the left, we can go to Overview, and here we can see metrics on total requests, allowed requests, and unsuccessful requests. We can also break it down based on Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, Apple, Perplexity, all the major players in the AI game. Now you can click through to metrics and security and even block specific crawlers. So if you decide that you don't want the Bing bot crawling your site, you can disallow that. But maybe you want Perplexity. I like that Perplexity has a user bot for AI assistant and then a search bot. So you even have that granularity. But you can also go to optimization. And if you want your website ranking in AI, there's this new website that Cloudflare spun up. And it says, is your site agent ready? And it does an audit of your site to see how well it's gonna rank in tools like ChatGPT and Claude. As you can see, my site is not doing a very good job of ranking in AI, and that's probably because I haven't spent hardly any time optimizing it. So we have some actionable steps here to make things better. I love how Cloudflare even gives you prompts to fix it. So if you're vibe coding your site, you can just copy this prompt, paste it into Claude Code, and hopefully address the issue. You'll really want to take your time here and think through your philosophies on AI crawlers. If you're a local business selling a product or service, you probably want as much AI exposure as possible, so your product can be recommended by ChatGPT in a top 5 list, or even come up in AI research. But if you're a content publisher, you may not want AI training on your content. So it's definitely worth diving in here, and if you want to see a full video talking about AI controls in Cloudflare, drop a comment down below because honestly, I may make one. Another powerful Cloudflare feature is rules, specifically the page rules feature. I'm going to scroll down in the sidebar and go to rules and page rules. On the free plan, you get 3 page rules, and this is a powerful feature to set up URL redirects on your domain. For example, maybe you want ddgboulder.site/help to redirect to a help knowledge base hosted on a different domain. So to do this, click Create Page Rule, and for URL, let's just do ddgboulder.site/help, and then we'll pick a setting, and let's say forwarding URL. Status code we're going to set to 301 permanent redirect. This is because our knowledge base is permanently hosted at the new URL, and maybe we're just using this redirect temporarily. Then we'll enter the destination. So let's just say example.com, and we'll say save and deploy page rule. Now we'll type our URL, and you do need to include HTTP or HTTPS://. I just made that mistake in a prior take. So let's just say https://example.com and click Save and Deploy Page Rule. Immediately after deploying our page rule, we should see it working. So let's try it. ddgboulder.site/help, and you can see instantly, lightning fast, it redirects to example.com. By the way, if the page rule is working, it also means that the Cloudflare proxy is functioning properly on your domain. If not, maybe your name servers haven't been updated yet, and you may need to wait more time for the DNS to propagate. Another thing to be aware of when you're new to Cloudflare is caching. Sometimes when you're actively developing your site, changes may not be displayed in real time. This is typically due to caching, and while pages are cached in multiple places, typically including your web browser and web server, Cloudflare also caches pages. So when you're deep in development, it's often best to temporarily disable Cloudflare's cache. To do this, go over to your domain's overview and flip the switch to enable development mode, and click Enable. This disables caching, and development mode will automatically expire after 3 hours in case you forget to go in and disable it. You can also purge the cache on command by clicking the Configure Cache link and clicking Purge Everything, and then Purge Everything. Alright, the final trick I want to show you is how to set up a custom email address that forwards to any inbox for free. To be clear, this isn't a custom email inbox. You will need to use a free email address from Gmail or another provider, and this is simply going to forward mail to your Gmail address, and all replies you send are going to come from the Gmail address. However, if you'd like to receive email to a custom email address you can list on your business card or website, Cloudflare has you covered. To do this, head over to Email and Email Routing, and let's go to Destination Addresses, and here is where you'll enter your free Gmail address and click Add Address. Then head over to your Gmail and look for a verification link from Cloudflare and click Verify Email Address. Now you can go back to Email and Email Routing and Routing Rules, and let's just say Create Routing Rule, and we'll say hello at ddgboulder.site will send to an email, and an email is our Gmail we added, and click Save. Okay, after adding this, even if this is set to active, you need to double check the status up here. Right now it's showing as disabled, and this is because there are already mail records in our DNS records that were imported from Hostinger. If you are using a custom email address on this domain already, you do not want to use this feature. You cannot use both simultaneously. So if you have a custom inbox through Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, setting this up is going to mess with that. So do not do it. However, a lot of web hosts will add email records by default, and if you're sure you don't have a custom inbox set up through Hostinger or whoever your web host is, it's safe to proceed and override those records. That's the case for me. I don't have a custom email set up, so I'm going to click this arrow next to disabled, and we'll click Add Missing Records. And it says, existing non-Cloudflare MX records conflict with email routing, remove or update them and try again. Okay, so here's what we need to do. Let's go over to Domains, Overview, click our domain, DNS, records, and these 4 records have to do with mail. Now, the most important ones to look for are MX records, but also I know that these TXT records, DMARC and SPF have to do with email. Also, I can see these hosting or mail CNAMEs. So at a minimum, we'll need to remove these 2 records, but to really clean this out and avoid extra bloat, I'm gonna take out all of the CNAMEs and all of these TXT records and click Delete 7 records, type delete to confirm. And okay, once that's cleared out, we should be able to go back to email, email routing, click the arrow next to status disabled, and click Add Missing Records. Okay, looks like our records are added, status is syncing. So it may take a few minutes for this to update, but after it says that it's enabled, you can try testing your new custom email address and check that it forwards to your Gmail or free email address of choice. Okay, your site is now up and running on Cloudflare. After setting up Cloudflare DNS, you may want to leverage Cloudflare to get even more out of your website. So for my top 5 tricks you need to know about Cloudflare, you can check out that video here.